boys and families, and most importantly, teachers. This is the last of our 4 series of webinars. I don't know if you've attended any of our other ones, but they are all recorded. And this is a very special webinar we're having tonight about Australia and New Zealand. Now, for anybody that's new to our webinars, we are International Education Link, and my name is Christine. I'm supported with Wade, who's helping in the background. And very importantly tonight, we have invited Elsa Marie van Skalkwyk, who comes from Rutega. And why we've invited Elsa Marie is because we feel it's very important to give every boy, and if there's any girls listening as well, the very best options for your tertiary career. It's a huge decision you guys are making. And Edulink has always worked in close association with Elsa Marie, and she specializes in Australia. So that is why we thought it's important to invite her and let her give you her first-hand knowledge of what the best universities are for all the different options to suit every boy and any girls as well. She's got a wealth of experience, and I'm now going to hand over to Elsa Marie. But just before I do that, questions and answers, guys, if you've got any questions, please won't you just type them into the little chat box, and we will at the end of the event answer all your questions. So I'm now going to hand over to Elsa Marie. Elsa Marie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Christine. Okay, as Christine has introduced me, I'm Elsa Marie van Skalkwyk. I'm from Rutega Education Services, and we are partnering for this presentation with Edulink tonight. We've been in business for 15 years, and we've focused during that 15 years totally on Australian universities. The reason for that is that I find the Australian higher education system, when it comes to the internationalization part, very superior to anything that I've encountered. And I worked at various universities in South Africa. There's something strange happening there. Sorry.
No, I think it's all fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, it was on my computer that something happened. I apologize for that. I've worked at various universities in South Africa, and I just find the Australian higher education so compatible with ours in the sense that it's based on the Commonwealth system as ours is. However, it is in a protected environment, it's in a highly regulated environment. It's a very thought through system of higher education that they have in Australia. We ran a couple of webinars earlier in this year, and when Christine approached me, I thought of these little snippets that we made up, and there was one that really came through to me in the sense of a representative of a specific university, Macquarie University, but he actually, right in the beginning, spoke very well on what the Australians focus on in terms of their international higher education and why it is such a lovely destination for a young person to go to. So Wade, if you can just do that little snippet for us, sure. And then we can take it from there.
You want me to play that video for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
He will tell you more about the university as well, but particularly the first part is more general.
Yeah.
There you go.
And Australia. So, you know, I'm only 1 hour behind you at the moment, which is a lot better than being 2 o'clock in the morning. So as I said, I look after Africa. Obviously, not every country in Africa is a good place to look for students from. But South Africa is increasingly a very sort of compatible area of study. You guys all speak English. Your education system is modeled on the Commonwealth system, which is the same as the Australian one. So there's a very even fit when you do come and study with us. Okay, so a little bit about the uni. That is a picture of Sydney. Now, Sydney is not the capital city of Australia. A lot of people think it is, but it isn't. It's actually the largest city, but it's not the capital city. That honour goes to Canberra. But as I said, Sydney is the largest city by a long way, has a population of about 5.5 million people, and is the economic and administrative hub of the country. So it's where everything happens. It's very vibrant, it's very, very dynamic, but at the same time, you know, if you look at that picture, you can see it's right on the water. It's very, very geared up for a good lifestyle as well. So why Sydney? You study in Sydney, you are guaranteed a very, very good education. All the universities in Australia are closely monitored by our Ministry of Education and all have a special code and a testing mechanism that we have to pass every year. Another reason for studying in Sydney is job opportunities. As I said, it is the biggest city in Australia and the first place to look when you're looking for work. There are a lot of opportunities for job seekers in Australia, and Macquarie University is actually ranked #1 in Australia for graduate employment. This basically means that if you have a Macquarie University degree, you stand as good a chance, if not a better chance, of getting a good job at the end of it than any other Australian university. On top of that, you have a fantastic lifestyle. Australians, kind of similar to South Africans, they work in order to live. So when that office door shuts or when the pen goes down at the end of the day, you finish work and you finish studying. You go out, you can have a barbecue, you can walk down by the beach, you can go for a swim. There are a whole range of things that you can actually do there. Very multicultural. Australia is a relatively young post-colonial country. Hundreds and hundreds of nationalities wandering around. I think something like 1 in 4 Australians was not born in Australia. There's a very high level of safety. Now, I don't want to be insensitive, but parts of Africa make the news for all the wrong reasons sometimes. Australia makes the news for all the right reasons. In terms of COVID-19, incredibly low number of cases. Only 100 deaths, as unfortunate as that is, but only 100 deaths from beginning until now. Level of corruption is very, very low. Level of unemployment is also very low. So as I said, high level of safety, great employment, multicultural, great lifestyle, great opportunities. Why would you not go there? I can hear you asking, why are you living in England, Anthony? So, Sydney's, back in 2017, Sydney was the 2nd most desirable city in the world. Vancouver was #1. And over the last couple of years, they jockey for position. Is it Sydney? Is it Vancouver? Is it Sydney? Is it Vancouver? They do jockey for position. Here are some lovely pictures of the kind of things that you can get up to when you're in Australia. You've got open air museums, open air cinemas, walks, open air swimming pools, opportunities to go surfing, aquariums, museums, etc. Now, the lifestyle in Australia lends itself a lot, in fair part, to the weather. Now, I live in the UK. If it rains, and it does rain a lot, you can't do anything. In Australia, they have a little bit like South Africa in a way. If you decide to hold something on a Saturday, you can pretty much guarantee that's going to go ahead. Now, a little bit about Macquarie University itself. It is a very large university sitting on 126 hectares of land. Now, it's a government university, but the land is owned by the university itself, which means we are able to sell parts of that land. We're able to put infrastructure on our property. We can have secondary income streams from companies that rent office space on the campus. We have approximately 40,000 students. About 25% are international. So our international student body is very similar to the international makeup of the whole of Australia. We are not based in downtown Sydney. We are based 15 kilometers from the CBD. So we were established in 1964, and we are the only Australian university to have our own train station. And we're also the only Australian university to have our own private hospital on campus. If you look behind me, to my left, you will see that hospital in the picture behind me, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail. We are actually ranked, this says we're ranked in the top 2%. As of today, we are now ranked in the top 1%. We have jumped 35 places up to make us number 214 in the whole world.
Okay, I think that is it. Thank you very much. Perhaps I should explain to you how the universities or the international forum is structured in Australia. As Anthony said, it's very much government controlled, so they make sure that the standard of delivery is of the highest quality. And if the university does not comply or does not reach that standard, the university will either forbid them to accept international students or close down specific divisions or courses or whatever. But mainly, you have 3 types of institutions there. The one is the group of 8. That is the top 8 universities. That would be the University of Sydney, the University of New South Wales, University of Queensland, Melbourne, Australian National University, University of Western Australia, Adelaide, and Monash University. Those are the group of 8 universities. They all rank within the top 150 in the world. But one must remember, normally rankings are based at this level on research output. So that means there's a lot of research that's been doing there. It's blue sky research, it's cutting edge. So for any student who wants that top type of experience where it's the top facilities for basically going into research, the group of 8 is fantastic. That doesn't mean that they don't offer wonderful courses as well. They do. But there's another group of institutions that also do offer very good courses. And that is what we call the younger universities. That would, for instance, be the Curtin University. These are universities that very often have universities outside of Australia. Curtin has a university in it's Mauritius, I think it is, Christine. Yeah, so they are younger universities, but they are also ranked very good or very high in their delivery of courses. So when it comes to bachelor's degrees, one can always say perhaps it's more cost effective to go to a younger university than to a group of 8, because you can imagine, you know, a university like the University of Sydney is jointly started by Oxford and Cambridge, and that is exactly what they go for, but you pay the price. So if there's something that you think you can do at a very good level, at a lower, not a lower university, but a lesser ranked university, you can go for the younger universities, and you can find out the ranking of the specific course in the area that you want to study in. For instance, Curtin is very well ranked for engineering, for instance, and so I can continue. Then there is another thing. When we come and we talk about qualifications or entry requirements, we will talk about this again. Most universities are linked to a pathway college. Now, in quite a good measure of instances, they would say it is Curtin College, but these are handled by, for instance, the Navitas or the study group. Those are private organizations that do deliver pathways into the universities should you not have the grades to go directly into the university. They also offer foundation courses, which is an extra year that you have to do. For instance, if you only have grade 11, you can go and do your grade 12 there. What is very nice of the Australian pathway courses is if you go into, say, Monash College and you do your first year diploma there, and you have a specific grade in the end, you then go to year 2 of your bachelor's degree. So it's not that you waste a year or lose out on a year. I also want to talk a little bit about the courses, and then I think we're going to just do another session from one of the group of 8 universities. In this particular case, I've chosen the University of Queensland, just because it's in another state than Macquarie is. The university courses are similar to ours, but also not so similar to ours. You can do the bachelor's degree, and then you can do an honours year, but the honours year is still seen as an undergraduate degree. So you do a 3-year bachelor's degree, and upon successful completion of the 3-year degree, you can either do the honours or you can do a Master of Coursework. Now, the honours leads you into research, whereas the Master of Coursework leads you into practice, into the world of work. That doesn't mean that once you've done your Master of Coursework and you then want to go and do a doctorate that you can't. It can take you into the doctorate. But a Master of Coursework is at a higher level of training, but it's like the bachelor's degrees where you go to classes and then there's just a dissertation of research that you have to do. Whereas the other option you can follow is your Master of Research. You go flat out for research and you become a professor at a university or at some research institution or whatever. Back to the bachelor's degrees. What is very nice of the Australian system is you have your options again. That's what's nice of it. There's always an option. There's always a pathway. It's so structured that it caters basically for everybody. You can, if you're a high achiever, you can do a double degree. So normally a bachelor's degree is 3 years, and if you want to do another bachelor's degree, it's also 3 years. But if you do a double degree, they work out where the overlapping is. So instead of 6 years in a 4-year or 5-year period, you actually graduate with 2 specific degrees, say the one in commerce and the one in science or whatever. Or you can decide, no, that's a little bit too much for me. I still want to play a little bit. But I want to upscale, so I can do a double major. That means instead of having just one major and a bunch of minor subjects, you choose a double major. And it's interesting when we start to talk about the choice of your degrees, and this is basically my role, is to help you with that and to explain to you that and help you find exactly what you want to do. You can decide, I want to major in mathematics and I want to major in French. That's fine. We work it out for you. Then, of course, there are the general degrees, as we've spoken about, and then in the pathways, you can do the foundation course, you can do a diploma, and you can even do a graduate diploma that leads you into a master's degree. I think at this point in time, if it's okay, let us listen to one of the group of 8 presentations, which is then the University of Queensland in this particular case.
Okay, just one sec.
So, my name is Alicia. I'm from the University of Queensland. I would say that UQ is, as a sort of summary, a very well respected, highly ranked university. It's a member of the Group of 8, and it's well known for its research. It's very well regarded for its research in a whole host of different areas. But on the flip side, it's also based in Brisbane, and Brisbane is, for me, if you might be able to tell, I'm English myself, and for me as an outsider to Brisbane, I find it a fantastic city, really fun, friendly people, fantastic weather all year round, which makes it really easy to socialise, to play sports, to go to the beach, and generally to have a really good work-life balance. So, sort of as a summary, to give you just a brief introduction, I think that UQ is a great balance between high quality and really fun experience, lots of extracurricular activities. As you can see from the major world rankings here, we tend to be ranked around the top 50 in the world. And we also have some subject rankings here, so you can get an idea of some of the areas where we are highly ranked. And what you will notice from this list is that it's really varied. We have very good rankings across the board in lots of our subjects across all of our faculties. So really, you know, if you're thinking of coming to UQ, in general, I would say we're in the top 100 at least for pretty much everything. So the quality is broad as well as being high. The other thing that we're known for at UQ, as I mentioned, is that we're a Group of 8 university, so our research is very strong. Obviously, if you're thinking of coming as a PhD student, that's very important to you. But even for students who are coming for a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, it's important to choose a university that's got strong research, in my opinion, because you will have access to fantastic research facilities. You'll have opportunities to do research in your holidays. You'll be taught by and working with lecturers and academics who are at the forefront of their field. They're not just teaching you something that's been written by someone else. They themselves are the people researching it. So it's a really exciting environment to be in. And I think that, you know, most universities would say that research is their sort of their key thing that they do, and it's very important for students at all levels. The other thing, let me click, yeah, the other thing though is that we aren't a research university to the detriment of teaching. As I mentioned, I myself am English, and in British universities there tends to be quite a split or a debate maybe between research and teaching. A lot of the universities in the UK that are very strong in research are very hands-off in teaching, whereas this is not so much the case in Australia, and definitely not the case at UQ. In Australia, you can expect to have a high number of contact hours, regardless of which university you go to, which for any parents listening, you might consider to be better value for money, because your children are getting more contact with the teachers than they would be if they were going to a similar university, particularly in the UK. But also, you know, not only in general is Australia very strong in teaching, but at UQ we're particularly strong. So every year in Australia there are these teaching awards for innovative teaching and, you know, new things that people are doing and excellent teaching, and we have won more of those awards than any other Australian university. So the quality of the teaching is very high, as well as the quality of the research. It's not an either or situation. And then, as I mentioned before, the experience is very important. So that could be things like doing sports. We're second in the world for sports science. The quality of the facilities in sport on the campus are fantastic, second to none, as you would imagine. And so really it's a great place to come and do sport. But if you're also thinking about doing things like internships or a study abroad semester, all sorts of other extracurricular things you might want to do, that's also definitely possible. We also have a cinema and a theatre on campus. We have various concert bands if you're more into the arts, as well as all sorts of other sort of social events and societies that you can get involved in. So again, you know, the life experience that you can have at UQ is very strong.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so let us get down to the nitty-gritty. The Australian universities recognise and accept the National Senior Certificate, the IEB, as well as the A-levels. They do not accept the AS level as an entry into a university directly. Because we are from South Africa on South African passports, we are exempted from English language tests, so you don't have to do an IELTS or a TOEFL unless you want to do education or nursing. Then you have to still do an English proficiency test. We find that it varies a little bit from university to the university, the grades that you have to have. But on average, we throw away the life orientation, we don't look at that, and then we take the average of, in some cases, the best 6 subjects, for instance, the case of the University of Sydney, the best 4 subjects. If you there have a 65%, you can mostly get into your general courses. When you want to go for actuarial sciences, medicine, commerce, the higher level commerce, which is then actuarial sciences sometimes, engineering, you have to have a higher grade than the 65%. But again, if you don't have that, then let us look at a college for you that is linked to the university where you want to study, and you do your first year diploma there, and from there go into the second year of studies. The benefit of the pathway is that the classes are smaller, you get more attention, they really put themselves out to get you on that grade so that you can transfer into the second year of the university. So it's very easy. If you want to go and study in Australia, you do your National Senior Certificate or your IEB, or you can do your A-levels, and Bob's your uncle, you can go. Scholarships. The Australians have a different perception of scholarships than the Americans. It's purely based, the limited scholarships that there are is purely based on academic merit. I'll talk about sports scholarships a little bit later on, but it's purely academic merit. So if you're a high achiever, you may get a little scholarship. In many cases, it's a once-off. Sometimes it's a rebate, as they call it, on your tuition fee, and that could be for the first year. If you then progress very well, it can flow over to the second and further years. Let me just give you this one example. I placed a student at the University of Adelaide last year. Now, there are basically 2 intakes in Australia. There's the February-March intake, which is the major intake, and then there's the July intake, which is the second intake. Some universities are moving to the trimester system, but I can talk about that later. This student started in the July for biosciences at the University of Adelaide, also a group of 8 university. But unfortunately, the subjects were such that he had to do Chemistry 102 and Physics 102, and then in the second semester, which would be the first intake, he had to do Chemistry 101. So what the student did, he got into it and he started reading up, and he sort of catch up a little bit on the 101s, and he did very well in the 102s at the end of the first 6 months. And the university called him in and said to him, "We've noticed what you've done. We're very impressed. We condone the second semester for you. You don't have to do that. You can go directly to year 2, and we give you a 25% rebate on your tuition fee for the remainder of your studies, provided you remain on this level." So this is what makes the Australian education so fantastic for me. It's well structured, but it's also, they take note of the individual. Back to sports scholarships. Again, they base their scholarships purely on academic merit. But if you're a good sports person, they may give you a small sports scholarship of, say, $5,000 or whatever. But be aware, it is mostly there to pay for the sports thing. If you have to go and represent your university in another state or another country, some of that money is given for the flight ticket. When you come back and you've missed some classes, then they get a tutor in, pay the tutor to help you to catch up on your academics. It's very important for them that you pass, because you don't want to lose your visa. Cost, with our currency, it is not a cheap venture. You are talking here in the vicinity of 40,000 Australian dollars on average per year for a degree. Living expenses, we have to quote what the Australian government demands from us. So we say 22,000 Australian dollars for living costs. That is now accommodation and meals and so forth. But you have the work rights on your student visa of 40 hours per fortnight during the semester and full-time during the holidays. So that means you can do some student work and you can get a little bit of extra money, and it will pay for your meals and your transport and the fun and the jolts and things like that. Also, when you have a study visa and you study there, upon successful completion of your degree, provided the degree is longer than 2 years or 2 years, you have, depending on where you study, between 2 and 3 years post-study work rights, which is fantastic. That gives you the opportunity then to find a job, work a little bit in Australia, decide whether you want to go and study another degree, whether you want to remain there, stay in the job, become an Australian, or whether you want to go further in the world, come back to South Africa or whatever. That's a wonderful opportunity for any student, the minute you are qualified, that you can work there. And it's not guaranteed, but it's easier because they structure the degree such that during your study period, you have work placements. When you go to a work placement, that is where an employer sees you, and from there you can get your job offers for post-study work, and Bob's your uncle. Study visas, you have to have a study visa before you can arrive in Australia. It's a lengthy process, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but it's a very, very serious document. We have to do it correctly. There are medicals that you have to attend to and so forth. But if you are interested, that is of course what we shall help you with, and we shall take you every step of the way We've been doing this for 15 years and I've never had a study visa rejection. So on that, I think our time is also running out. I think I should stop and rather leave it for you to ask questions. I shall be happy to answer, and if I can't answer, I shall go and get the answer and come back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any
Thanks,
questions, Wade?
Yeah, there were quite a few that came in. Thanks for all the info, Elsa. You did actually already answer most of these questions, but I'll start with the ones that weren't covered. So someone was asking about medicine in Australia. How exactly does that work? Do the universities take direct entry in for medicine, or is it going to be through a pathway or a BSc program first?
There are universities who do take a what we call a guaranteed medicine course. There are the directs as well. University of Queensland has a direct entry, but gosh, your marks must be very, very good. It must be in the upper half of the 90 degrees, 90% before you can get in. Another one that has a very interesting one. It's interesting that you ask about medicine, and I chose these two to do the sessions with me. The University of Macquarie, they have a Bachelor of Clinical Science, 2 years, and you are then guaranteed into the Doctor of Medicine for 4 years. Of course, provided that you stay within the limits of the academic achievements. University of New South Wales, they have a 6-year medical program. It's direct entry. University of Sydney, they have the guaranteed pathway, which is then the Bachelor of Medical Science, then your MBBS. So you have your options there. Then, of course, and I always try to discourage students from this because there are no guarantees. You can go, if you don't get direct or guaranteed entry, you can do your Bachelor of Medical Science and then apply for the MBBS.
Okay.
It's not a guaranteed pathway then. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you really have to be like an outstanding candidate. You say 90% and above to get through into direct entry. Okay.
Yeah.
But for other kind of majors like business and those kind of things, what do you reckon? Like an average of 70% would be okay with a IEB matric?
Yeah, look at that. It's interesting. They assess the IEB and the National Senior Certificate on the same level. We call it the ATAR. We do the conversion on the ATAR. And actually, they say a 76 on an IEB is like a 76 on the National Senior Certificate. And I think that's just to make it easy for them and for us as well. For commerce, for engineering, I would say definitely in your 70s. Although civil engineering, there are universities, if you have 65%, you will be able to get in there. Yeah, okay, next one.
Okay. So someone asked, how long does the whole application process take? So if we decided, if they wanted to get into, let's say, the March intake 2021, when is the best time to apply, you know, providing that we have to make time for like all the immigration and study visas and all of that? Well,
apply now. Do it as soon as possible. And particularly this year with the COVID thing, the sooner you apply, the better for you. So there is apparently a pathway you have to follow with the applications to Edulink, and from there it will come to me and I shall help you with that application. What we need from you is your latest grade 12 results and a copy of your passport. If you have more than one passport, just tell me about the other passport, but let us use the South African passport. It makes it easier. So apply now. The Australians haven't really started to issue study visas yet. We are waiting for them to open so that we can start to process the visas. So there's going to be quite a backlog if you wait too long. Rather apply now as soon as possible. Okay.
Do you think that there's a chance that the first semester will be delivered online, due to the travel restrictions with COVID and all of that? Or are the universities saying it's like, intakes as normal?
They're not sure whether the borders will be open. So the message that we get is that students will be able to do their courses or some of their subjects online direct from here. But then we proceed with the processing of the visas, and then once the borders open, they can go. They will get credit for it. They will get credit for the time period that they couldn't be in Australia in order to get their post-study work rights. Yeah, so it's online. Well, they already have started it online. Many students are studying online at the moment. There's the second semester intake, which happened now. There are students studying online, and we're just waiting for the borders to open. Yeah.
Okay. And our next question is about the tuition fees. So we obviously, we talked a lot about the group of 8, which is obviously your higher ranked universities, which are on the higher end of the tuition. Do we have any, some more affordable options? Where does the price actually start? I know it goes up to about 40,000, but where would it start at?
Well, actually, it goes up to 80,000 if you want to do medicine. So that's more of a deterrent than high marks that you have to do now. There are universities where, depending on the course you want to do, I would say from $30,000 upwards.
Okay.
Basically, stuff.
Yeah. And then I think it's also important for families to remember that they have to have that. You said it's a minimum 22,000 Australian dollars for your living expenses, right?
That's right. But
on top of the tuition.
Yeah, that is the higher end. That's what we have to quote. But I know the students get by with lesser. It's possible, if you share your accommodation, if you don't eat a hamburger every day, but sort of have a little veggie pot in your kitchen or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, there's a few other questions that came in, but you did cover them. You did talk about the scholarships. What is your success rate like with scholarships with your applicants?
For South Africans, I think fairly good. For instance, Macquarie, if you are on a South African passport, they immediately give you 5,000 Australian dollars rebate on your tuition fee for the full course, just because you're a South African.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a nice saving. Yeah, they understand our situation. We got a scholarship for a person at University of Sydney for 40,000 Australian dollars. So
oh wow.
Yeah, he had very little to pay. So in his first year. Oh.
Okay. Our next question is about obviously people will be going over on a student study visa. You did mention that they're allowed to work while they study for 20 hours per week, right?
That's right.
Okay. And then after they graduate, is the student allowed to stay on and look for work in Australia and kind of set themselves up for permanent citizenship?
Yeah, that's what I explained about the post-study work rights. Upon successful completion of your degree, you have 2 to 3 years work rights. If you've worked in the country for 2 years at the same employer, you can apply for permanent residency. Yeah. Okay,
brilliant. Yeah, I think that's it. And just the last question is obviously about the English proficiency, but you did say that the only time you'll need that is for nursing and if you want to teach education, but all other programs you're saying that South African applicants are they don't have to do the IELTS.
Yeah, they're exempted from that, yeah.
Okay.
Just one on the accommodation as well. Of course, there are reses, like we have here in South Africa. We recommend for a first-year student to rather go into a res purely for the socialness of it, and being at varsity, to be amongst your peers and to have your study groups. There are private accommodation providers that provide specifically to universities. It's very nice. I've seen it. They have bus services and very well protected. And you can have your meals supplied. You can cook your own meals. There's places where there's a communal kitchen, and that I've seen as well. They're in the kitchen, and the one is dishing up a bobotie, and the other one is doing some pork dish or whatever, and they share, and it's very sociable. So the accommodation is also an interesting thing that one can look at, but that I think is for a later stage once the applicant has a conditional offer.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, good. Well, I think you've covered all the questions that came through. Thanks, Elsa. So I think just I think now's the time to apply. We're almost in September, so if you are in matric, I think it's really important to get your application in, because the next intake is going to be around March, I reckon. Elsa, is that right? In 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to get your place quickly. So I'm just going to share.
COVID is really delaying things with applications, as we know as well, Wade. Yeah. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly so I can just show our viewers how the application form looks like. So you just go into our website, edulink.co.za. You click apply now, and then this is the form. We've tried to make it as simple as we can for students. It's just 4 pages long. You can work on it. You can save it for later and come back to it. The second page is quite an important part that universities ask for. It's your personal statement, and that's just that's your chance to speak to the university and tell them what makes you an interesting candidate for the program. And it also gives them a good chance to see your command of English and how you write. So don't stress about it too much though, because we will read it and check it before we send it off and let you know if it needs anything. And then you can upload all of your documents, any certificates of achievement, your academic reports, academic reference letters, all of that. And when it does come through, we'll work with Elsa to get your offer as soon as we can. And then as soon as your unconditional offer comes through, once you've got your final matric certificate, then we'll help you with your immigration. Yeah. You know what I think is very important to add now as well, Wade, is that basically the promo code, as we've been giving to all the students through all the webinars we've done, there is a charge to apply, which is 1950, but we've given a special price to Hilton of 1,500, and then you use the promo code Hilton, which will qualify you for the reduced cost. And I think the other important thing that we need to also say is, as I mentioned earlier, studying abroad is a huge decision. And guys, it's important you involve your parents with it. I know most of your boarders, but your parents need to be involved. Now, Edulink we are very happy to organize virtual meetings. And if you request one, Wade is going to put something up later as well. We will organize that you have a virtual meeting with Elsa Marie and your parents, so they can also ask all the questions. It's critically important, guys. We haven't done this little flyer on our other ones, but for anybody, wherever you're going to study, whether you're just deciding to study in Australia, America, UK, Europe, I would really recommend that you do organize a virtual meeting. And this can also be arranged via our website. You just send a message on the inquiry tab and just say you'd like to organize a virtual meeting. Or you could also do it via mail. At the bottom there's mail@edulink.co.za. And then we will send all your details to Elsa Marie, and she'll be happy to sit with your parents on a virtual meeting and help you with your whole process. I think we work we're on the same page, Elsa and myself, because we've worked together for many years. It's all about the student, and we will do our best to recommend the best university that's going to work for you. Elsa Marie, I don't know how you work in Australia, but I know with the UK, where we've got so many universities, we always, if a student is applying, say, for actuarial science, we'll always send them to the most highly ranked university for that, same as, say, civil engineering or whichever their program choice is. So there, guys, it's so important to work with somebody like Elsa Marie or Edulink ourselves in the other countries, because we know the terrain, we know the universities, and we will always help you to choose the right one that suits you as a student, your lifestyle, your program choice, and your budget. And always when an application goes in through one of our companies, whether it be Rutega or Edulink, it is taken more seriously by the university, because they know that we've vetted everything and that the application is a lot, it's been checked through. Your chances of getting an application, a good offer, I think, Elsa Marie, if I can say for you as well, I think it really helps when you go directly through somebody like us. It's a huge, huge task to try and do this on your own. We've had students who have tried to go and apply on university websites on their own, and then they make huge mistakes. The visa gets declined. Guys, it's really worth it to work with professionals that have been doing it for many, many years. I think we've covered everything. So guys, I think, look, you're all in grade 12, most of you that are listening. I don't know if there's any grade 11s listening as well, but I did speak to Mr. Dubois earlier, and he agrees as well. It's important now to get your applications in. We're seeing overall, because of COVID, it is taking longer with the applications now, because a lot of people are working remotely, and you don't want to have this whole hassle when you're just about ready to write your final exams. Get this done now so that you know your application is in. Everything has been done. We're here, we're not running away. We can help you even over the holiday period if it has to stretch to that, but try and do as much as you can now, because you don't want to be worrying over the Christmas holidays. Oh, I haven't got my offer yet. I haven't got this. I haven't, you know, it's up to you to organize now. So whoever the boys are, whichever families, please, wherever you're applying, whether it's Australia, UK, Ireland, Europe, America, Canada, please, if we could just remind you, all of you, please, to try and organize virtual meetings with your parents, and so that they understand, because they're the ones that have to pay, and then let's get the applications in. Thank you so much, Elsa Marie, for giving us your time this evening. We really appreciate it. Guys, you've had the real best expert on Australia here with you tonight. And we look forward to helping you getting to your university choice in a very sort of hassle-free way, because that's what we try and achieve, that it runs smoothly. You don't have to have any problems worrying. Leave that to us. Thank you once again. Thank you, Elsa Marie. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Hilton, boys, parents, and most importantly, Mr. Dubois as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elsa.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.